Welcome back, wonderful listeners. Grab a comfortable seat and maybe a warm cup of tea. You deserve to relax. Today, we're diving into a relationship drama podcast that's truly wild. Imagine a narcissistic mother-in-law refusing to let go, even after years of no contact. This crazy MIL story shows intense family betrayal and husband-mom drama. How far would you go to protect your peace from toxic family? So, let's pick up right where we left off. Our narrator, who we'll call OP for short, recently received something rather unexpected. After 3.5 long years of no contact with her husband's mother, or JNMIL as we'll refer to her, an email landed in her spam folder. An email that, in JNMIL's own rather deluded mind, might have passed for an apology. But believe me, friends, it was anything but. Now, you might be asking yourselves, why now? Why after all this time? And that's a perfectly valid question. The timing, as it often is with these types of situations, is everything. See, JNMIL is in a bit of a bind. In just 2 months, her government unemployment benefits and insurance in Europe are set to expire. She's close to official retirement age, but she's short a good 6 or 7 years of employment and insurance contributions needed for a full pension. So, what's a toxic mother-in-law to do when faced with the harsh reality of needing to work? Well, last week, she took a job as a full-time maid in a private house. Now, understanding JMIL's deeply narcissistic mother-in-law nature, this is a woman who, in her heyday, would boast about letting her maid have dinner with us. Poor thing. You can probably guess how that's going. I can almost picture the struggle. This isn't someone accustomed to being on the receiving end of instructions, let alone doing the actual work herself. But here's where it gets really interesting, and frankly, a bit audacious. Op and her husband own a company. Op herself is the owner and general manager on paper. It's a small operation, just the two of them, their accountant and their lawyer. Always has been, always will be. Just the nature of their business. No employees needed. And this, dear listeners, is the crux of JMIL's apology. Op believes, and honestly it's hard to disagree, that JMIL's true intention is to manipulate her son, Op's husband, into employing her. Not to work, mind you, but to simply pay her a salary and her insurance, effectively making her a ghost employee just to secure her pension. Can you imagine the sheer audacity? This isn't the first time either. JNMIL has apparently had the nerve to ask her son about this very thing several times over the past 2 years, and each time he's shut her down. Yet here we are again. It's a classic move in the playbook of crazy MIL stories, using guilt, manipulation, and a false sense of entitlement to get what they want. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How can someone be so incredibly deluded about their own actions and expectations? It's a potent mix of desperation and a lifelong pattern of controlling others. This isn't about reconciliation, it's about a strategic move to benefit herself, regardless of the consequences or emotional toll on her own son and his wife. It's pure husband-mom drama, and it's a stark reminder of the complexities when dealing with toxic family dynamics. So, we've talked about JNMIL's desperate attempt at a non-apology and her thinly veiled motives. But to truly understand Op's current frustration, we need to rewind a bit. We need to go back to why Op made the drastic, yet clearly necessary decision to go no contact in the first place. Because let me tell you, friends, these kinds of decisions aren't made lightly. They usually come after a series of deeply hurtful and manipulative events that push someone to their absolute breaking point. For Op, that breaking point arrived in January 2022. Picture this. She and her husband had just bought a brand new home, a huge life event, and were in the midst of moving houses and cities, a notoriously stressful time for anyone. On top of that, Op's own mother had just been admitted from the hospital and was in recovery. Imagine the emotional load she was carrying. She was, by her own admission, extremely vulnerable and at one of her lowest points. And what does a truly toxic mother-in-law do in such a situation? They seize the opportunity. They see vulnerability not as something to support, but as a weakness to exploit. Op and Jen Meal were having a visit, and they got a little tipsy. Op thought Jen Meal was acting like her best friend, perhaps letting her guard down slightly because of her emotional state. But this seemingly friendly facade quickly crumbled, revealing the true nature of Jen Meal's intentions. What followed was a series of truly outrageous and calculated attacks. Jen Meal, without a shred of decency, called Op's recovering mother to tell her that Op was an alcoholic and a gold digger. Think about that for a second. Calling a recovering patient, someone who should be focused on healing, to spread such malicious lies. It's a level of cruelty that's hard to fathom, a deep family betrayal that cuts to the core. But it didn't stop there. JNMIL then called Op's husband, attempting to create drama and intrigue between them, trying to sow seeds of discord in their marriage. And if that wasn't enough, she called Op herself, trying to provoke her, aiming to get a reaction so JNMIL could then play the victim. It's a classic narcissistic mother-in-law maneuver. Instigate conflict, then claim innocence. This wasn't about a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate campaign to destabilize Op's life when she was most susceptible. This kind of husband-mom drama can be absolutely devastating, slowly eroding trust and peace within a relationship. After enduring such a vicious onslaught, Op wisely made the decision to go no contact. And the immediate impact? She has felt immensely better ever since. This isn't surprising, is it? When you remove yourself from a constantly negative and manipulative influence, especially a toxic family member, it's like a weight being lifted. It's a testament to the power of setting boundaries and prioritizing your mental and emotional well-being, even when it means making incredibly tough choices about family. What are your thoughts on setting such firm boundaries? Have you ever had to walk away from a relationship for your own peace? We've talked about the initial betrayal that led Op to go no contact, a move that brought her much-needed peace. But here's where the story takes an even more disturbing turn, truly highlighting the depths of JNMIL's narcissistic mother-in-law tendencies and her complete disregard for boundaries, even in the face of immense grief. This incident perfectly encapsulates why Op's toxic mother-in-law deserved to be cut off and why the apology email rings so hollow. This past February, Op experienced a profound tragedy. Her 44-year-old brother passed away unexpectedly. Losing a sibling is an unimaginable pain, a grief that can feel all-consuming. In such moments, a supportive family is crucial, and respectful distance from disruptive forces is paramount. Op's husband, knowing his mother's disruptive nature and wanting to protect his wife and her grieving mother, explicitly told JNMIL not to contact them. It was a clear, direct boundary set during an incredibly vulnerable time. You'd think that even the most difficult person would understand and respect such a request, wouldn't you? Especially when it concerns someone else's profound sorrow. But what does JNMIL do? Of course, she completely ignores this boundary. Not only does she call Op's mother, the very woman who was still recovering from a hospital stay and now coping with the loss of her child, but she also goes a step further. Op had meticulously blocked JNMIL on almost all social media, but in her grief she missed one. And JNML, ever the persistent boundary stomper, found that loophole. She snuck into the only social media platform Op had forgotten to block her on and offered her condolences. Now you might think, well, condolences are nice, right? Not in this context, my friends, not when they come from a place of blatant disrespect and manipulation. And to add insult to injury, these condolences were accompanied by a freaking infantile crying emoji. Can you truly grasp the sheer lack of empathy and emotional maturity displayed here? It wasn't a heartfelt message of sympathy. It was a performative act, designed to insert herself back into Op's life, to perhaps feign concern, or simply to prove she could still reach them, despite the clear boundaries. It's the kind of subtle yet piercing attack that only a truly toxic family member, particularly a crazy mile, would employ. It's not about offering comfort, it's about making it about her. This incident highlights the insidious nature of family betrayal when it comes from a narcissistic mother-in-law. Even in Op's darkest hour, J.N. Mill couldn't resist her urge to control or intrude. It adds another layer to the husband-mom drama, showcasing a pattern of behavior that goes beyond mere misunderstanding. It's a deliberate, calculated disregard for another person's pain and autonomy. This is why Op's decision to maintain no contact is not just understandable, but absolutely vital for her healing and peace. It really makes you question, doesn't it? What constitutes genuine empathy from a family member, and where do you draw the line when someone repeatedly crosses it, especially during a time of grief? We've covered the depths of Jane Mill's boundary crossing, even in the face of Op's profound grief. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter, that marvelous message, as Op sarcastically calls it, the email that prompted her to share this crazy Mill story with us. This isn't just any message, it's a textbook example of a non-apology and a masterclass in manipulative communication from a narcissistic mother-in-law. Op knew instantly why Jen Mill was reaching out now. It wasn't about remorse or genuine desire to mend fences. It was pure panic. With her unemployment benefits running out and the prospect of a full-time maid job clearly not suiting her entitled personality, J.N. Mill realized she needed Op. Or rather, she needed Op's husband to employ her. The email, then, was nothing more than a strategic move to open the lines of communication, to regain a foothold, and ultimately to exploit Op's company for her own financial gain. Let's dissect this so-called apology, shall we? It reads, "Hello, Op. It has been long enough time since the misunderstanding between us. This situation might work great for you, but have you ever considered my son? I don't think my son deserves anything like that. Yes, I made a mistake, but everyone makes mistakes. We are family, anything could happen. Yes, I know that I act hastily and that I am impulsive, and I do reckon this is a flaw of mine, but I hope you forgive me. I know it won't be the same, but we have to try. I'm thinking of coming to your place one day and putting an end to it all. You are a reasonable person, and I hope you understand me. First, notice the opening. It has been long enough time since the misunderstanding between us. A misunderstanding? This completely trivializes the pain and family betrayal JNMIL inflicted. Calling Op an alcoholic and gold digger to her recovering mother, trying to create husband-mom drama, disrespecting grief, these aren't misunderstandings. This is deliberate cruelty from a toxic mother-in-law. Then comes the classic guilt trip. This situation might work great for you, but have you ever considered my son? I don't think my son deserves anything like that. This is a prime example of deflection and victim blaming. She's not apologizing for her actions. She's implying that Op's no-contact decision is somehow hurting her son, shifting the blame onto Op. This is a common tactic in toxic family dynamics, twisting the narrative to make the victim feel guilty for setting healthy boundaries. Next, the half-hearted admission. Yes, I made a mistake, but everyone makes mistakes. And yes, I know that I act hastily and that I am impulsive, and I do reckon this is a flaw of mine. This isn't true accountability. It's a superficial acknowledgement, quickly followed by justification and normalization. Everyone makes mistakes. She frames her malicious actions as mere flaws, like being hasty or impulsive, minimizing the profound impact they had. This isn't regret. It's a strategic admission designed to elicit forgiveness without genuine change. But the truly chilling part? I'm thinking of coming to your place one day and putting an end to it all. And you are a reasonable person, and I hope you understand me. Op found these last two lines incredibly creepy, and honestly, who wouldn't? It sounds less like a request for reconciliation and more like a threat or an uninvited intrusion. It's a bold assertion of control, suggesting she can simply arrive and dictate an end to the situation, rather than respecting Op's autonomy or acknowledging the immense work needed for genuine repair. It leverages the expectation that Op, as a reasonable person, should simply cave in. This entire email is a masterclass in manipulation, masquerading as an apology and a stark reminder of the lengths a narcissistic mother-in-law will go to get what they want. It leaves us wondering, how do you even begin to respond to such a distorted plea for reconciliation? Or do you even respond at all? We've just dissected JNMIL's manipulative apology email, a stark reminder of the lengths a narcissistic mother-in-law will go to get what she wants, even if it means resorting to thinly veiled threats and emotional blackmail. So, what's Op's plan now, after receiving such a disturbing message that underscores the ongoing nature of this toxic family dynamic? Op is absolutely clear on one thing. She is not going to answer JMIL. And frankly, after everything we've heard, the initial family betrayal, the blatant disregard for boundaries during grief, and now this calculated attempt at manipulation, this seems like the wisest course of action. Engaging with a toxic mother-in-law like JMIL often just fuels the fire, giving them the attention they crave and inadvertently validating their disruptive behavior. As Op wisely observes, the longer she ignores JML, the more agitated she gets. This frustration on JML's part is actually a sign that Op's no-contact strategy is working. It's breaking JML's sense of control, and that's precisely why she's lashing out. However, Op isn't keeping this new development to herself. She plans to let her husband know about his mother's latest shenanigans in the coming days. This is a crucial step in navigating husband-mom drama. Communication between spouses is vital, especially when dealing with a difficult in-law. While Op doesn't want to add stress to her husband during what is already a hectic period for them work-wise, keeping him informed is important. It ensures they remain a united front against JML's attempts to drive a wedge between them or exploit their situation. It also prevents JML from trying to triangulate, where she might go to her son with a different version of events or try to gaslight him. Op shared that she feels angry, frustrated, confused, and sad after receiving this email. These are incredibly valid emotions. It's exhausting to constantly battle a narcissistic mother-in-law who refuses to respect boundaries or accept responsibility. Even when you've done everything right by establishing no contact, these random manipulative attempts to re-enter your life can still sting and trigger old wounds. It's a reminder that healing from toxic family dynamics is often a long and winding road, and external forces can sometimes still disrupt your peace. So, what can we take away from Op's storytime with a twist? It reinforces the power of firm boundaries and the necessity of protecting your mental well-being, even from family. It also highlights the persistent nature of crazy mill stories, where the in-law refuses to accept the new reality of no contact. Op's situation is a powerful example of someone standing firm against relentless manipulation. Now I want to hear from you, our amazing listeners. Op is seeking advice on how to deal with this situation, and I know you all have incredible insights. Let's make this easy to share your thoughts. If you've ever dealt with a toxic mother-in-law or family betrayal like this, what was the one thing that helped you most? Just type a single word or a short phrase in the comments. For example, you could say boundaries, therapy, grey rock, or support system. Let's flood the comments with powerful, concise advice for Op and anyone else navigating similar relationship drama podcast-worthy situations. What's your top tip for dealing with a difficult in-law? Just one word or a short phrase below.